All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. I think this is our until we get into bowl season, our last weekly press conference, and so appreciate everything you guys have done all year covering Duke football, and certainly thank you for doing all of it. To recap, last week, I think what I said after the press conference really holds. I think. When you look at the things that you have to do to win a football game on the road in the ACC, we just really didn't do them. We lost the turnover battle 2-0. We played our worst special teams game across the board. We didn't do a really good job there. I thought defensively against the run game, we really struggled with angles and leverage and missed tackles, which has certainly not been something that's been a problem for us this year, but was. We gave up too many explosive passes, which again is not something that's really shown up much this year, but did. Hats off to UVA for making those plays, but just didn't feel like we put our best foot forward from an execution standpoint. And then offensively, it really, when you look at the sum of the game, it's boils down to a handful of 3rd and 1s that we don't convert and keep drives alive, a 2nd and 1 that we take a sack that kills the drive, and 2 turnovers. And that's 5 out of 12 drives that end in situations that they probably aren't ready to end. And so, it's disappointing, but we've got to bounce back, and that's the nature of football again. And so, we've got one more chance to go out there as a team in the regular season and kind of right this ship and put a good finish on this thing. And then that kind of brings us forward to Pitt, and that's 37 seniors walking on senior day. Don't know what that actually means in terms of who's coming back, who's not coming back. That is a really interesting world nowadays with COVID and those years still going on. But there's a lot of really special kids that are going to be out on that field getting recognized for senior day, and a lot of kids who have meant an awful lot to Duke football, and certainly have meant an awful lot to this 2-year resurgence of Duke football. And so, for that perspective, it's going to be a really emotional, special day. Obviously, a lot of people in our building, in our locker room, want to make sure that group goes out the right way on Saturday and has a really strong finish to what has been a really strong 2 years. And so I think that kind of becomes a rallying cry for this week. When you look at Pitt, I think offensively, I think the first thing that jumps out to you is they're really talented at the wide receiver position. I think they are athletic. I think they run really well. I think up front they're really big. They're playing a couple young guys on the right side of the offensive line, but they're a big physical group. They got 3 backs that they kind of rotate through. Flemister and Hammond kind of play the majority, but they bring the Carter kid in as a 3rd guy. And then they're just trying to kind of solve the quarterback position, and they've kind of, I think, settled now on Nate Yarnell, and he looked really good last week against Boston College. And so certainly expect him to continue to improve. And so, we know we're going to get their best on offense for sure. And they're starting to kind of put it together as the year has gone on. Defensively, it's a Pat Narduzzi, Randy Bates defense. And so, those guys have coached and played a lot of really talented defenses for a long time. It's a challenging scheme in terms of, it's not overly multiple, but they play it exceptionally well. They have really good change-ups to kind of complement what they do as a base. And, they make it really, really challenging for you because you've got to earn everything. They're going to be in the box loaded and not allowing you a lot of easy run lanes. And then they're going to be in your face outside, covering you in a lot of man-to-man. And so winning one-on-one matchups against this group is critical, and our ability to go out and do that Saturday will play a big role in it. And so it's another great opportunity for us, a chance to finish the season undefeated at home in ACC play, which is something that has become something that we're really taking pride in, how we protect Wallace Wade. And so it's another great opportunity to go out and do that. And so from there, I'll kind of open up the questions.
Your past defense, the chunk plays, where do we see the most better regression there? Is it more coverage or pass rush on time?
Yeah, again, it's like all of these they're all multiple layered problems. And so if you just look at Saturday, there was a couple times where we really got out of our lanes and zone drops and created huge voids. That was the first touchdown. That was the big 3rd down at the end of the second half. The first touchdown from Malik Washington, that was the case. And then, the 3rd and 12 that they converted in the start of the second half, that was the case. If you look at the big touchdown pass they threw, that was obviously a one-on-one jump ball that got out of the kid's hand pretty quick, and their kid just made a play, and we didn't do a great job locating and getting the ball on the ground, which we've been better at. And then I think it's times where we could be better at rushing the passer and disrupting the quarterback. And so I think it's a multi-layered issue the last 3 games. I think we just got to get back to anytime things start going like that, the biggest thing you got to do as a coach is you got to get back to the basic fundamentals. You got to get back to the things that your kids are most comfortable with and try to put them in positions to go out and execute at a high level. And that's something we got to really focus on Saturday.
It's coming off maybe the best game of the year. What were they able to do against Boston College when they were able to do earlier in the year?
Yeah, I think probably control the flow of the game offensively. They were able to sustain drives more. They were able to stay on the field more. And that's kind of their recipe for success. If they can play complementary football and extend drives and run the ball and stay within the chains and allow that defense to be rested and fresh when they go out there, that defense is really challenging to go against. And I think that's kind of what happened. I think at times earlier in the year, whether it was turnover or just missed opportunities, the complementary piece of it wasn't always there, and defensively they were getting stuck on the field a lot and maybe kind of wearing down a little bit because of that. And so, I think last week you really saw them put it all together and look like what I think, Coach Narduzzi wants Pitt football to look like. And that's certainly what we anticipated being this weekend.
When you talk about some of the mischaracteristic things that your defense did, like missed tackles, is that surprising that it shows up in the 11th game, or is there some degree of there's wear and tear that goes on in defense 2.5 months in?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to make excuses. It has been a gauntlet of a schedule, right? And when that happens, I think sometimes there's a wear and tear that you have to learn how to play through. I think that's kind of what we've talked to the guys about. I think there's been some emotional roller coasters this year that maybe these kids are having to experience for the first time, to be a team that's talked about as a top 25 team and then not a top 25 team, and then to go from a big stage to a lesser stage and still getting everyone's best every step along the way. All of that is new, and all of that is a piece of us having to learn how to become a championship level program. And so, we haven't always handled it the right way. At times we've done a really nice job. At times we haven't. I think that's a piece of it. But I do think over the course of 10 weeks, the way the schedule has laid out, it certainly has been a physically taxing year for sure. And again, that's not to make any type of excuse. We've run through this schedule every step along the way with the best of our ability, but I do think there is a little bit of a reality to that.
Your perspective, Coach, kind of talking to that, the energy level Saturday just seemed a little bit low, sidelines heading into the fourth quarter. Is that something you saw maybe earlier that day or earlier in practice, man, this is going to be a tough Saturday to get everybody up, or is that something that just happens on game day?
Yeah, I think when you play 12 games in a season, you're not going to have the same energy level every week. I think that's to be expected. I don't think it's possible to be at an all-time high like you would be at Carolina or Monday night against Clemson every single Saturday. It just doesn't always play out like that. And so I think there's times where you just have to rely on how you play the game. And that's I think what Saturday was. And I don't think we played flat. I don't think we didn't play hard. I don't think we didn't compete. It was an emotional game against Carolina. And what we needed to do was we needed to go out there and talk about it all the time. You got to be a pro, and you got to go out there and you got to play, and you got to execute, and you got to play for each other, and you got to do those things. And we just didn't. It's happened twice this year, right? It happened against Louisville, and it happened this week where we just didn't play the kind of football we're capable of playing. And that all starts with me. I mean, ultimately that falls on my head, and it's my job to get these guys playing and doing the things that they're capable of doing. And unfortunately, Saturday we just didn't. And so, nobody takes that more personal than I do, and certainly the guys in our locker room do. And so, we got to very quickly try to figure out how to resolve it and fix it and come out and have a really good Saturday this weekend.
Speaking of energy levels, Duke hosting on Thanksgiving weekend is going to result in a small crowd for reasons we all know. It's just the reality. How do you prepare? Obviously, your players know that, but how do you prepare your kids? It's senior day. It's a huge day for them. How do you prepare them for the reality of playing in front of so many empty seats?
It's probably just a hope that that's no longer the reality. I think what we have to do is we have to figure out how to change reality in those types of situations. And so if that's ultimately what it becomes, and then our job is to go out there and perform and play. But I don't think this program can continue to accept that as reality. I think if we want to become the program we want to become, regardless of weekend, regardless of circumstance, we need Duke fans to show up. And that's ultimately where we have to get to. And it's our job to do that. It's not calling anybody out. We've got to build this program, and we've got to make it a product that people want to come out and support and watch. And we've got to do that consistently. And we've talked about all the ways we've got to build community engagement and all of those things. But we're certainly not going to accept that on a Saturday afternoon. People shouldn't be at Wallace Wade Stadium. They should be.
How would you rate Grayson last week? I mean, not every, it's not always straight lines. Sometimes take little steps back here and there. Did he learn from that? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was his most productive game, and so from that perspective, I thought it was another step forward for him. He missed a handful of throws that I'm sure he would have liked to have had back, but that's still, again, he's still a young kid, and he's still learning, and he's still getting all of that under his belt. But I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think he was close to 290 yards or 280 something yards passing. And so, yeah, it was by far and away his most productive day. And, and again, in the fourth quarter, he continued to make the throws that we needed to make. Back-to-back drives, he did what he could do on offense to give us a chance to have a chance to rally back in that game. And so, I think it still continues to be encouraging and an arrow trending in the right direction for him and the way he's operating and the way he's playing.
When you become the CEO, how do you do that back and forth? Some in a week, transfer portal opens, and all the things with that, right?
Yeah.
What's it going to take for you to continue to be where it wants to go?
Yeah, a lot of support. I think that's the world that we live in nowadays. I think, what are we? We're probably about 13 days away from complete anarchy in the Wild West, and that probably started 3 weeks ago. You hear all these coaches talking about, people reaching out to guys and recruiting guys, and I mean that's the world of college athletics now. Someone asked me, like, do you feel like people are tampering with your guys? I'm like, I don't even know what that means anymore. Like, it's literally open free agency for all of college football, and so our guys, no different than anyone else's, are going to be in that conversation. And I think again, our ability to continue to elevate our program, our ability to move our program forward and continue to provide an elite student-athlete experience is critical. I think our involvement in NIL is going to be really important. I think continuing to support the Durham Devils Club and doing the things that we can do to try to help continue to grow that is going to be really important. It's a piece. It's not the whole thing when you talk about a retention strategy, but it's certainly a piece of the retention strategy. And, and then just continuing to provide the resources to keep this thing moving forward. And I think everybody wants to feel like they're part of something that's moving forward. And I think, there'll be blips in the radar. There always are. I mean, no program is, immune to this. I've heard it talked about like, do certain programs, are they more prone to losing guys? If you got guys moving from, the number 1 ranked team in the country to the number 3 ranked team in the country nowadays, and not to call out any names, but like that's happening everywhere. So I don't know that anybody is immune to what's going on right now in the transfer portal. And so it just is what it is. And you've got to put together a really strong strategy to retain your players, and NIL is a big part of it.
One of the positives from Saturday was Mackey Wallstein stepping in for Jalen Callahan when he was injured, having a productive game. Can you talk about his development, what that means going forward?
Yeah, I think Makai has certainly flashed talent at times. I think there's probably a level of consistency that we're still looking for from him, play in and play out. But, it was great to see him get in there in some critical moments and operate in the offense really well, and certainly made some critical catches in that drive to keep the game alive.
Any update on Jalen's status for Saturday?
Yeah, Jalen should be good. Yeah, he got dinged up. It was really more of like a bruise that just wouldn't resolve to where he could get enough movement in his lower body. But he should be fine Saturday. I think his last game at home.
Yeah,
I don't think he's missing this one. I think he'll be out there this Saturday for sure.
Coach, real quick on Grayson, other than calling specific plays for the run, is the playbook pretty much open now?
It's open-der. Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't know that you can put in words how hard this is. I guess I made this analogy to somebody. Like, if you were to go to your local high school and they had to trot out their ninth grader for a playoff game, and he was now the starter on varsity, like, that's a jump, and so that's not to say that he's not making the jump well. It's not to say that he's not progressing. It's not to say that he's not giving us chances to win. And it's certainly not saying we don't have a chance to win with him as our quarterback. But, you do have to do things to not just throw him to the wolves. Like, you can't just go out there and say, okay, hey, here's all of our plays, go run them all, and I hope it works out. And if it doesn't, it's on you. Like, we have to be smart with what we're asking him to do. And that's not to say that we don't let him throw it or we don't trust him to throw it, but I don't know that you just unleash everything on him. I don't think that would be fair to any freshman. And that's no different with, we didn't do that with Riley last year. Riley was starting for the first time as a second-year player, and we certainly didn't go into the first couple games making him execute every single piece of the playbook. You found what he was really comfortable with and really good at, and certainly had no problem with him throwing the ball. You were just trying to find the throw game pieces that he was the most comfortable with, and I think we're trying to do the same thing with Grayson. Good. Excellent. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.